Okay. Um, Hello. I hope you're all well. Whoever's seeing this, whatever time you're seeing this, I hope you're well. My name's Dante. I'm 19, and I'm going to be telling you guys about how I met Jesus. Testimony. Um, Loki, I didn't want to film this. I'm being so honest, but I don't know. God's just been telling me to do it. I've been putting it off, and I've been having so many people tell me, and I've just been feeling led to do it. So, why not? And as well, there's no English people on YouTube. I don't know why. It's just full of Americans. So, why not? So yeah, um, I suppose my walk with Christ is a lot different to most people's because most people their walk is like first like the first bit of their walk is like like the honeymoon phase and it's pretty chill, pretty easy. But then after is the suffering and like the trials. But for me, the suffering was the first bit, and now the after bit is like the smooth bit, the calm, chill bit. So, without further ado, let me get into it. I suppose it all started for me on the 7th of May. That's when my canon event started. Because I suppose since I was young, I've had, I guess I could say like health issues type of thing. But the 7th of May, but it's usually been like on the side. It hasn't stopped me from doing anything. It hasn't stopped me from playing sports. It hasn't stopped me from doing like all this stuff. Um, so 7th of May, I'm just trying to sleep. This is 1, 2 a.m. So maybe I shouldn't have stayed up so late, knowing I had work the next or that very morning. Um, but yeah, I stay up. It's about 1, 2 a.m. I'm trying to sleep. Um, and all of a sudden, I just feel my heart beating fast, and I sit up properly, you know, take some deep breaths to see if it's gonna help it, and it does. After a few deep breaths, a couple deep breaths, it gets a bit better. And once I lie back down, then it just keeps going, and then it gets worse. So by that point, I stand up, I go toward the window, and then I open the window to like have some fresh air come to my face to see if that's gonna help, but it doesn't. Um, so I'm having like this mad heartbeat, and I'm having shortness of breath as well. And but this heartbeat, it wasn't normal. It was like in cartoons where like you can see the heart beating out of the chest. You can see it like coming out of the chest. That's what it felt like for me. It genuinely felt like that. It wasn't normal. So at this point, I'd go and tell my mum what's happening, and then she calls an ambulance. And when she calls the ambulance, I'm explaining to like the lady on the other side of the phone. I'm telling her what's happening, and then she goes, "An ambulance is gonna be about an hour and a half or an hour." And I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna make it to an hour and a half because of how horrible it was, how bad it was. I genuinely wasn't going to, cause I'm sat on the edge of her bed, like just like trying to control my breathing, feeling weak. I'm shaking. I'm getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and it feels like my body is like low key just shutting down. Like I'm just getting weaker and weaker. So the lady on the other side of the phone, she's like, it's probably be best for us to go to the hospital, to the emergency like department. So we go to the emergency department, um, and we go in. I tell the doctor what's happening and what's wrong with me, and um, from that doctor, because we saw two doctors that day. The first doctor was to tell them what's going on, and the second doctor was like to try and diagnose it. Um, but the doctor they couldn't pinpoint what it was. So we got to the hospital at about 2 a.m. and we ended up coming out at just after 8. And that time spent was just waiting to see a doctor. And I tried to sleep in that time, but I couldn't because my breathing was just so off. It'd be as though like I might doze off for a few minutes, but I'd wake up because it would feel as though I stopped breathing when I slept. Like it was like I'd stop breathing and then I'd have to wait. I'd have to like wake up and carry on breathing. Like I couldn't breathe on autopilot anymore. Um, yeah. So once we came out of the hospital, low key it was pretty refreshing. Not gonna lie, because I didn't expect to see like the light of day. I thought that was it for me. Um, so yeah. After that, I go home. I try and sleep. Um, and then from that point, for about a few days, it slowly gets a little bit better. Um, but then after that point of a few days, it just starts to get worse again. For about 3 weeks after that, it just starts to get worse. Like it gets to a point where I can barely eat. I'm feeling nauseous. I'm feeling like I'm having shortness of breath. I'm feeling extremely weak. Like where I live, there's a like road outside my house, like literally like a pavement outside my house, and I could barely walk to the end of the road, which was less than 30 seconds, less than 30, or maybe 30 seconds on the dot, but it's less than 30 seconds. I could barely walk there and back because of how bad it was, which sounds like exaggeration, like an exaggeration, but it's not. It's genuinely how how bad my condition was. Like this wasn't natural. Um, and I suppose I've always had knowledge of who Jesus is, or of Jesus, because you know I used to be like, yeah, I'm Christian, this and that. I've been a Christian my whole life. I've been a Christian for 19 years, but I've only had a relationship with Jesus for the past 5 months. You know, um, and I remember I was just one night I was watching this video of this guy that was evangelizing. It was pretty sure it's called Mapello. A pretty good guy. I was watching this video of this guy evangelizing to a guy, being like, no, you don't, like, you need Jesus and stuff like that. And then the guy gives his life to Christ. And and once he gives his life to Christ, he says, like the prayer, like, Jesus, I surrender my life to you and all that. And I follow along. I follow along with the prayer. It sounds a little embarrassing, but for me, that's what I knew at the time. So I follow along with the prayer, and I give my life to Christ. And I'm like, is that it? Like, is that it? I don't really feel any different. Um, and yeah, I followed along. And from that day, um, there'd be moments where I'd just catch myself talking to God. You know, like there'd be times where I felt so horrible. Like I genuinely would felt like I would feel like I wasn't gonna, I don't know, make it to the next day or make it through the night. So I'd just go outside to the back garden. I'd sit on a trampoline because we have a trampoline there that my younger brother used to use. I'd sit on the trampoline, like on the edge of the trampoline, and I'd just look up and I'd talk. I'd just talk to God in that moment. I'd be like this is what I'm feeling, Lord. This is what I'm feeling, Father. And you'd think almost dying had me kind of shook or had me kind of scared, but honestly, I was pretty chill. I was pretty good. Um, but that was only because of the peace that the Lord gave me. Like I haven't felt peace like that before in my life, ever. You'd think, I mean, I was stressing a little bit, but the stress wasn't as much as the peace that I got, you know? I'm like, there'd be times where like, I'd just be sat out there for, I don't know, hours, honestly, hours just talking. And man, like, the Lord put me in a situation where He was like, hey, it's my way or no way. Because if I didn't rely on Him for strength at that time, I would have been cooked. I would have been cooked. Because I don't know, man, it just wasn't natural. Like there'd be times where I feel like genuinely horrendous, and I'd feel like like this one scene from Kung Fu Panda where Master Oogway says to Master Shifu, he's like, "My time has come." Like I feel like my time has come. um, yeah. So and fast forward from that point on. for about a month. It just starts to get worse and worse. And I'm like, I say to my mum, like, I think we should go to church. And she's like, yeah, I think the same. Because before that, we haven't been to church for, I don't know, years and years. So we go to church that day. And I ended up missing most of the service because my breath was acting up. So I had to go outside and try and catch my breath. Like, I literally couldn't breathe. That day was the worst day. That was the worst I felt in terms of my breath. Like, I was having shortness of breath. I was shaking. And so we go back in at the end of the service. And usually after, the pastor goes into like this, I don't know, little room where he would eat, he would drink, stuff like that. So my mum was like, "Now we need to see the pastor." But one of the elders is like, is it urgent? Because he's trying to like rest. But she's like, "Nah, it's urgent. It's urgent." So we go in and we haven't seen him for a while. It's been a long time since we've seen him. So he's like, "Hey, how are you?" and all that. And then he asks how I am. And then my mum was like, "Nah, he's not so good." And he asks, like, is there a problem with his breathing? So as soon as she says like, yeah, it's a problem with his breathing, he stands up, he comes towards me, he puts his hand on my chest, and he starts praying over me. He says, "In the name of Jesus." And as soon as he says, "In the name of Jesus," it's like I just start having the shortness of breath again. And I start breathing heavy, I start coughing, I start feeling like I'm gonna throw up. High key, I was convulsing. And he's praying over me and all this. And then he stands me up and he starts walking circles around me. Like, he's circling me and he's like proclaiming life over me. He's praying over me. He's being like, he's saying stuff like any spirit that's trying to like attack him, like, I rebuke you in Jesus' name and all that. And whilst he's circling me, I start feeling like, you know, when you bump your elbow, like when you bump your elbow against something and then you feel like static in your elbow. Like, I felt that same feeling. I felt it in my face, in my chest, in my arms. And once he finishes praying, I feel better. And when I say better, I mean I feel normal. Like, I feel like I felt how I felt before this. I was like completely better. And then, like, I'm just stood there. I'm in shock. I'm in awe. Because I didn't expect to wake up that day. If I had not gone to church that week, I would not be here. I would not be here. I wouldn't have made it to the next week. Not a chance. Because that very night when I went to sleep, like, I felt like it's my time, you know? Like, it's time for me to go. Like, I felt I was not gonna wake up the next morning. That very night, it was so deep, low key. Like I said, like I was praying, I was just talking to God that night, and I said, like, "Lord, into your hands I commit my spirit," before falling asleep. And that's the same thing that Jesus said on the cross before he died, because I thought that was gonna happen to me. Like, I was so certain I was gonna die, and then when I wake up the next morning, and I'm surprised, you know, and I'm just like overwhelmed, you know, and I don't know, a few things happen after that, and then it comes back, but it's not as much. It's manageable now. Like, I can definitely walk around. I can definitely walk around a lot more. I don't know, I can do a few star jumps. I could do a few push-ups. You know, this that. But it's been 6 months. Yeah, it's been 6 months. It's been 6 months since I've had this. It's been 6 months since I've last been to the gym, and that was pretty big as well. You know, I wasn't like, yeah, I was decent sized lad. You know, pretty strong, I'd say. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell, to be honest. And in that season of, well, in that moment of suffering, man, like me and the Lord were like this. Like, we were like this. And he put me in a position where it was like, "Hey son, it's my way or no way." I think I said this before, but like, it's my way or no way. That's what he said. And man, he put me in a position where I had to rely on him. And I'm glad that he did, to be honest. If I could go back in time, I'd do the same thing again. I would, because I'd get to rely on the Lord in the same way, you know? Like I was with like his presence was with me all day, every day. And I was seeking him all day, every day. And looking back in that time, he really built me up, like my faith. He really built up my faith. And looking back, like he really used that time, to be honest. He really did. And even the time after that, to like build me up in knowledge and faith, and he was changing me. I didn't even realize he was changing me inwardly. He was changing my heart, but he was. And yeah, low key, the Lord's been after me for a while. Like, it's one thing for you to chase the Lord, but it's a whole other thing for the Lord to chase you, you know? Like, I remember this one time I was coming home from the gym, and it was this time last year. It was winter time last year, and I'm just coming home from the gym. It's dark outside. It's probably like 6, 7 o'clock, and I have my headphones on, but I have like one earpiece off, and I hear this ringing sound. So I'm like ignoring it, but starts to get louder. It starts to get louder and louder, and then it just turns to a full blown like trumpet noise, literally. So I take off my headphones. I'm trying to hear this, and it's like so loud. It's a trumpet noise, and it sounds like so loud that no one could miss it. Like, it genuinely filled the atmosphere. Not the atmosphere of like me or my ears, but the atmosphere. You know, it was so loud that like no one could possibly miss it. So I'm looking up, I'm thinking like, is this the rapture? Like, and I'm just going up asking strangers like, did you hear that noise? No, I didn't hear anything. And then I'm asking like more and more people, did you hear that noise? And all the answers are the same. Like, what are you talking about? There wasn't any like trumpet noise. And I've had stuff like that, but yeah. And it's kind of funny that's the church that I was like quote unquote healed at, because he brought me out of that church, because he showed me some stuff about that church that is a bit iffy. Now I'm going to a different church, and that church, they're trying to get me back actually, because my situation is like, they say it's like it is, I guess, a big thing, but I'm not worried about it, like, it's out of my hands into his, so yeah, let me check my notes. Pretty sure that's all I had. So yeah, I hope that's how I met Jesus, that's my story so far. This is like the third time I'm trying to record this, because I don't get how people can talk on camera for a living. Like, nah, not me. So I hope this inspires someone. I hope it helps you in your faith, because for me, the Lord has really showed me that he is always with me. And if he can do that for me, he can do it for you. The fact that I am still living and breathing is proof. It's proof that the Lord sees you. That the Lord, like, he is with us always. Even when I didn't know him, he saw me. He was watching over me, and it's the same thing for you. And I hope that this helps you. This is able to inspire you, And who knows? Maybe I'll post on YouTube again or something. But yeah, I hope you stay safe. I hope you stay blessed. Stay prayed up, and see you soon.